It was a big year for women's softball in the province of Manitoba. For the first time in 30 years, a Manitoba team won the Canadian Senior Ladies title, thanks in large part to the pitching of 22-year-old Sandy Newsham. For the second time in as many years, a Winnipeg team won the Canadian Midget Girls Championship, thanks in large part to the pitching and hitting of Heather Newsham, Sandy's 18-year-old sister. Here is more from TSN's Winnipeg correspondent, Peter Rutgate.
The Newsham sisters from Winnipeg, Sandy and Heather, they have to be considered two of the top female softball players Canada has to offer. Both are pitchers and both are coming off national championships. Sandy led the Winnipeg Smitties to the senior title in Burlington, Ontario, while at the Midget Championship in White Rock, BC, Heather won 3 individual awards while helping the Winnipeg Terminators win their second national title in a row.
2 years ago we won the bronze. Last year we won the silver, so for us to actually come through and win the gold this year was really sort of a highlight. It was very exciting, but I guess the highlight would be last year when we won, because that was the first time, and it was a long time since Manitoba had done that.
As you can tell by this wall in the Newsham's basement, both Sandy and Heather are well-decorated softball players. Father Dale has been a major influence in the girls playing the sport. He coached Sandy and currently coaches Heather. He gives us a scouting report on his 2 daughters.
The big difference is that Sandy's a lefty and Heather's a right-hander. That would be the big one. Otherwise, Sandy's 3 years older. Sandy's stronger than Heather. Sandy's physically very strong, and most of that is from her volleyball, weightlifting training, and so on. So she does her skills mostly with muscle. Heather's probably a little more coordinated, and Heather is more of a finesse player. She's a little smoother than Sandy. Sandy's a little more intense. Heather's a little more laid back.
Another major influence on the girls has been their mother, Mariam. She also played softball, and like her daughters, she was a pitcher and was considered one of the best in Manitoba.
Heather basically grew up going to tournament, and Dale really, I didn't get into pitching really until I married Dale. I had always played softball, but never really on a competitive level. And so he basically worked really hard with all 3 of us.
The Newshams have other talents. Sandy played 3 years of volleyball for the University of Winnipeg and was named the CIAU's Player of the Year in 1993-94. As for Heather, she was a Manitoba high school star in both volleyball and basketball.
Well, for me, basically all I'm playing right now is softball, so I've completely committed myself to playing softball, and every other sport that I do is just completely secondary right now, so I'm committed to softball. For me, I guess volleyball has to be my primary sport, because I'm playing university now, and it's a lot more competitive, a lot more practicing. So softball's mainly secondary for the moment.
As for the future, well, the Newsham sisters are eyeing the 2000 Olympics in Australia, where they hope to be teammates representing Canada. For TSN Inside Sports, I'm Peter Rutgate.
Thanks, Peter. Let's hear more now from Winnipeg as we welcome the younger half of the first family of Canadian women's softball, 1995, the Newsham sisters. Sandy and Heather, welcome to our show. Congratulations for making Winnipeg the heart of women's softball in Canada in 1995, and I guess 2 national titles fit very nicely into the same household. Sandy, why don't you go first in talking about what your title has meant to you and your city and your province?
Well, for me, it was really sort of an exciting thing to win because it was the first title I had ever won. But I don't think I really quite understood how big of a deal it was until I looked around at some of my teammates that had played for the same team for 10 or 12 years, and I saw how excited they were. And I really think that's sort of when it hit me that we had really accomplished something that was really quite important.
Heather, this was 2 in a row for you at the midget level. You fully expect to make it 3 times next year?
Yeah, I would really hope so. We could make it 3 times, but you never know what'll happen. Things can change. New players come up from the younger levels in other provinces.
Heather, how much practice is required? Do you throw year-round and every day during the season?
When I was young, I used to pitch 100 pitches a night. For, I guess, 5 years that would have been, but now we don't have to practice quite as much.
Heather, I happen to know that you hit the ball as well as you throw it. Do you get as much satisfaction out of hitting a double as you do striking out a batter?
Yeah, I even get more satisfaction out of hitting.
And you work at that pretty hard?
Yeah, I probably practice that more now than pitching.
Do girls pitch to each other, Sandy?
Not really. Neither of us are really catchers by trade, so we don't feel all that comfortable throwing, but once in a while I'll drag Heather out and get her to catch some change-ups or something, but she doesn't like it a whole lot.
Well, wouldn't you like to try to hit against each other? Heather, you could see what it's like against a lefty if you don't otherwise.
Oh, I've gotten the chance to bat off Sandy. We actually play in the same league.
How does it happen that, Sandy, you throw left and bat right, and Heather, you throw right and bat left? Did somebody mix things up, or was this the way it was supposed to be?
Well, I think actually I'm the one that got unlucky there. There's a huge advantage in softball to batting left, and my parents tried to get me to bat left, but I didn't really like it a whole lot when I was younger, and now I'm kind of wishing that I would have stuck with it.
Heather, where do you go with this sport in terms of an international career? With Sandy has pitched for Canada, and I gather you plan to do that as well?
Well, I just finished coming from the Worlds, the Junior Worlds it was, and I guess one day I hope to make the Olympic team.
Well, tell us how Canada does at the Junior World level.
Well, we came 5th. We were competitive with most of the team. Maybe not the top 2 teams, which were Japan and the U.S. They were quite a bit better than us.
Sandy, how long would you like to play? Is this something you're going to do for as long as you can?
I think so. I don't really see any end at all in my career. I think I'm basically just beginning in terms of the international game and playing with the national team. I see myself as playing for probably another 10 or 12 years.
What about, Sandy, has baseball ever crossed your mind? Obviously, girls play baseball now, and some would say they like it better than softball. Do you ever think of trying the other brand or not?
No, it's not something that I've ever really considered. I've played softball for so long, and I guess I've always just looked at baseball as being the game for boys, and it's now just becoming something that girls are doing, and I'm quite happy with the game I'm playing. I don't think I'd want to switch over.
Sandy, final question. Let me ask you your reaction to seeing Darren Zach pitch and to meeting him. Is that an experience for someone else who does what he does?
Well, meeting Darren at the Pan Am Games was really kind of a neat experience. I had heard a lot about him as being one of the top male pitchers in the world, and when I actually saw him pitch, I was just amazed at the control that he had and the amount of different pitches and just how willing he was to try and help the people on the women's team so that we could improve and learn new pitches as well.
Well, girls, thanks for letting us talk about your sport, and may we salute your accomplishments, your family, and your province. A big year for Manitoba. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be right back with the last word after this. To be made for more scoring in softball, but it's anything but boring to watch the best pitchers in the country or the world show their stuff. They don't have to make rules to speed up fastball. And when there is a run scored, the 4 are against somebody like Darren Zach, it is eventful and it's very often decisive. Zach and the Newshams and hundreds like them will be back next year for another softball season from coast to coast in Canada. That's our last word for tonight. You can send us your thoughts on this or any